Sir, good morning to you, and this is a truly disturbing story. New York Times captures it this way on screen. Bombings that killed 45 people in 2 cities. The cabinet declared a state of emergency was in effect. A newspaper was pulled off newsstands after it criticized the government. It was just the reaction the Islamic State wanted. They're trying to divide these people, and they're doing Christians to do it.
Well, I think a lot of this had to do also with the president's recent visit with the president of Egypt, al-Sisi. They obviously target Christians in the West. And a suicide bombing at a church happening in Alexandria, Egypt. Don't want to see that happen in Alexandria, Virginia, in the United States. We're very concerned about this new threat.
Well, the story suggests there is so much pressure on ISIS elsewhere that they are now shifting their tactics. Do you believe that?
Yeah, I think ISIS has a new sort of era of terror. When you look at their spokesman, Sheikh Adnani, who was taken out by a drone strike, he talked about not coming to Iraq and Syria to the caliphate, but rather killing the kuffar, as he called it, the non-believer, in their backyard. That's what Rahami, the New York bomber, did. The driving of cars over people, like we saw in London and Nice, and they're projecting a message to attack by any means necessary to kill at home in your backyard. I think from a homeland security standpoint, that's what we're most concerned about.
You mentioned here at home. You've got a new report about homegrown terror. What does that tell you based on the conclusion in that report? What's it say?
Well, that this is far from over, that they're plotting to hit the West, both aviation sector. We have a new threat in that arena, but also from this sort of homegrown terrorism over the internet to kill, where you are by any means, whether it's a vehicle, a knife, a gun. And this is a very hard thing to stop, Bill. When you have someone radicalizing over the internet like what we saw in Sweden, in London, suicide bombers are always a concern. I mean, imagine what happened in Egypt happening in the United States, a suicide bomber showing up to a church on Easter Sunday. And this happened on Palm Sunday, obviously a direct message to the United States. I think, again, it was a response to the president's meeting with the president of Egypt, al-Sisi. We don't want to see that happen. We've stopped a lot of bad things, but it's really hard to stop all of them.
I'm reading from this report of 204 homegrown jihadi cases in the U.S. since 9/11, so you're going back 16 years there. Of the 204, 36 have occurred in the last 12 months. What does that tell us?
It shows you that this is accelerating. The ideology is penetrating over the internet. It's affecting a lot of disaffected youth, I think, in my opinion. We work with the FBI and Homeland Security to stop these things in the United States. We have 1,000 investigations in all 50 states. We've arrested 150 of these guys, but you don't know where it's going to pop up next. And that always, people ask me what keeps me up at night, and that's what keeps me up.
Well, you mentioned it, and I'm just reading again, expected growing threat to U.S. airports from both ISIS and al-Qaeda, so they are still in the crosshairs here at home. Sir, thank you for your time. Mike McCaul taking on two topics there overseas and here at home.